Cast out of her home with nowhere to go, a widowed mother found refuge in the impossible, an overturned boat on land. But what she discovered hidden within its old planks defied all logic and fortune itself. The metallic clang sent a shock through Anna. Her fingers, calloused from toil and cold, trembled as she forced the plank aside, revealing not just a rusty chest, but the rusty chest. Peter and Sophia, her children, were nestled together, their soft snores a gentle rhythm against the incessant drumming of rain on the rusted hull. Anna pulled her hand back as if burned, her heart hammering a frantic beat against her ribs. The small, flickering candle flame she used for light cast dancing shadows, making the dark corners of her makeshift home seem to breathe. She leaned in, breath caught in her throat as she peered into the hidden compartment. The chest was ancient, its surface a tapestry of rust and salt, but it was undeniably there. With a slow, deliberate movement, she reached for it again, her fingers tracing the cold, rough metal. Her mind raced, a whirlwind of disbelief and a nascent, terrifying hope. What could be inside? Pirates? Legends? Or just more junk? She managed to pry out the heavy chest, grunting with the effort. It was heavier than it looked. Carefully, she placed it on the dirt floor beside her, the sound of its landing muffled by the persistent rain outside. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with the clasp. It was stiff, corroded by years of neglect, but with a final, desperate pull, it yielded with a sharp clink. A gasp escaped her lips, swallowed by the vast silence inside the boat. The flickering candlelight danced over a treasure that defied her wildest dreams. Nestled in layers of decaying fabric, there weren't just a few coins, but stacks of money, thick wads of old, moldy notes. Their scent was earthy, damp, an aroma of forgotten time, but undeniably real. And beneath the money, peeking through the gaps, were jewels. Ancient, yes, but their brilliance had not been diminished by time. A necklace with stones that seemed to capture the very light of the candle, rings that sparkled with an inner fire, and loose gems that winked like fallen stars. Anna stared, wide-eyed, unblinking. This was not a dream. This was real. The cold, hard reality of her existence, the incessant hunger, the constant fear, suddenly seemed to recede, replaced by a dizzying rush of possibilities. Her breath hitched. She picked up a heavy gold coin, its intricate design worn in places, and felt its weight in her palm. It was solid, undeniable. She thought of the community, the smiles and whispers that followed her every move. The boatwoman, they called her, a term laden with pity and scorn. They saw a broken, destitute woman living in a wreck. They saw nothing. The true wreck, she realized with a strange sense of irony, was the life she had been forced to abandon. This boat, this rusted shell, was not a symbol of her despair, but a vessel of hidden promises. A new kind of fear, cold and sharp, pierced the initial euphoria. This treasure, if discovered, could be her ruin. The world was not kind to those who found fortune in unexpected places, especially not to a woman alone with 2 children. She had to be careful, meticulous. With utmost care, she began to sort through the contents. The money, though old, seemed like it could still be exchanged. The jewels. They were another matter. Their ancient nature made them unique, perhaps even more valuable, but also harder to sell discreetly. She meticulously wrapped the jewels in what remained of the decaying fabric, placing them back in the chest. The money she separated, choosing some of the less moldy wads for more immediate use. Her mind, usually consumed by the next meal or the next patch for a leak, now buzzed with strategies. She needed to be smart. She couldn't just walk into town with a handful of ancient gold coins. She needed to think, to plan. The rain continued its relentless drumming, but inside the boat, a different storm was brewing. A storm of hope, ambition, and a dangerous, thrilling secret. Anna carefully pushed the chest back into its hiding place, covering it with the loose plank. Her fingers lingered on the spot. The boat, once a symbol of her rock bottom, now hummed with a silent power. The night was still dark, the wind still howled, but for the first time in months, Anna felt a warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the worn blanket. A new chapter had begun, not just for her, but for Peter and Sophia. The boatwoman was about to rewrite her own story, one secret coin at a time. Night gave way to a grey dawn, but the darkness inside the boat was no longer the same. Anna awoke before the sun, her body aching from the cold floor, but her mind in a whirlwind of thoughts. The secret pulsed beneath the loose plank, a warm, heavy presence that transformed the thin air. Peter and Sophia still slept, their small bodies nestled together for warmth, and Anna watched them, a new promise glimmering in her eyes. Hunger still rumbled in her stomach. The cold still bit at her skin. But now there was a plan, a strategy, a future that seemed less like an abyss and more like a steep ladder. She rose cautiously, her movements practiced not to wake the children. The smell of salt and mildew still filled the air, but now it seemed mixed with the earthy aroma of old money, a scent of possibilities. Anna needed food, dry clothes for her children, a safer shelter, but above all, she needed discretion. With almost reverent care, she lifted the plank again. The rusty chest was there, untouched. She took one of the less damaged wads of notes, the paper rough and dry in her fingers. The money wasn't modern, but it seemed to be of a style that might still be accepted, perhaps in a larger town, far from the curious eyes of her small community. She hid the notes in an inner pocket of her most worn dress, pressing it against her body as if it were a talisman. It was still early when Anna left the boat, the icy morning wind whipping her face. The tide was low, revealing wet sand and slippery stones. The fishermen, usually already at sea by this hour, were still preparing, their rough voices and laughter echoing along the shore. Anna avoided eye contact, head down, walking towards the dirt road that led to the village. Mrs. Clara's small general store was the only place one could buy anything other than fresh fish. Mrs. Clara, a woman with a wrinkled face and sharp eyes, was known for her keen tongue and for not missing a single detail of other people's lives. Anna felt a tightness in her chest. She needed to be convincing. "Good morning, Mrs. Clara," Anna said, her voice a little firmer than she expected. The old woman scrutinized her from head to toe, her thin lips barely moving. "The boatwoman, what brings you out so early? Don't tell me the sea brought you a golden fish." Mrs. Clara's laugh was a hoarse sound, almost a grunt. Anna ignored the taunt. "I need some flour, a few eggs, and perhaps a piece of cheese. The children are hungry." She held out her hand, revealing the notes. They were a few low-denomination notes, but enough for her purchases. Mrs. Clara took the money, her narrow eyes examining the notes. "Old money, Anna. Where did you get this? Don't tell me you're stealing from the dead." A shiver ran down Anna's spine. "It's from a small sale I made of some old things my husband had kept. We need to eat." The lie came out with surprising ease. The old woman snorted, but accepted the money. "Well, I hope you're not getting into trouble. It's not good for a woman alone with children." She began to weigh the flour, the sound of the metallic scale filling the tense silence. Anna felt relief flood her body. It had worked. The money had been accepted. With the bag of flour, the eggs, and the cheese in her hands, she felt stronger, more capable. The weight of the food was a weight of hope. On the way back, the sun finally broke through the clouds, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. The boat, once a skeleton of misfortune, now seemed a refuge, a vault of secrets. Anna knew this was just the first step. She needed more. She needed a way to launder the money, to transform it into something that wouldn't raise suspicion. She needed clothes for the children, warmer blankets, a doctor for Sophia, who coughed frequently. As she approached, she saw Peter and Sophia at the makeshift entrance of the boat, their faces dirty, but their eyes shining at the sight of her. "Mama!" Sophia cried, running to hug her. Anna hugged them tightly. The smell of flour and cheese mixed with the aroma of her children. "Look what Mama brought. We're going to have a real breakfast today." The smile that spread across Peter and Sophia's faces was the most beautiful treasure Anna had ever seen. The money in the chest was merely the means. Those smiles were the true purpose. The rain had stopped, and a new day had truly begun. But the secret, the seed of her new life, remained buried, waiting for the right moment to blossom. Anna knew the path would be long and dangerous, but for the first time in a long time, she was no longer alone in her struggle. She had a secret and a plan. The warm aroma of freshly baked flour hung in the damp air of the boat, mingling with the salty scent of the sea. Peter and Sophia devoured their makeshift bread and cheese, eyes wide with pleasure. Sophia's laughter, light as a bell, filled the space, a sound Anna hadn't heard in a long time. It was a melody that warmed her heart, a vivid reminder of what she was fighting for. She watched her children, their faces smudged with flour, and felt a wave of love and an even deeper determination. That breakfast, simple as it was a victory, but the victory was fragile. The memory of Mrs. Clara's sharp gaze and her question about the old money still echoed in Anna's mind. That small general store was the only point of trade in the village, and discretion was impossible there. For every old note she exchanged, there would be a whisper, a suspicion. The secret, kept under the loose plank, was powerful, but also dangerous. She needed more than bread and cheese. She needed security, a future. She needed a plan that went beyond the limits of that small community. Sophia coughed, a dry, persistent sound that tightened Anna's chest. The cold of the boat, despite efforts to seal the gaps, still seeped in, and the children's thin clothes offered insufficient protection. With each cough, Anna's urgency grew. She needed medicine, warm blankets, a place where the children could sleep without the wind howling in their ears. That same afternoon, while mending one of the old nets she had found in the boat, Anna overheard the fishermen talking on the shore. Their rough voices carried fragments of information about a weekly market in the port town of New Haven, a few hours' walk away. It was a larger place with more people, more bustle, more anonymity. The idea planted itself in her mind, a small sprout of hope. New Haven, far enough not to be recognized, close enough to be accessible. The decision was painful. Leaving Peter and Sophia alone in the boat, even for a few hours, was a risk that made her tremble. But there was no other choice. There was no one in the village she trusted, no one who wouldn't judge her or who might steal the little she had. The boat, with its hidden treasure, was the only safe place for them. The next morning, even before the sun rose, Anna prepared a bowl of porridge for the children and left a pitcher of water within their reach. She explained to Peter, the elder, that she needed to go out for a while, but would be back before lunch. His eyes, still sleepy, fixed on her with a mixture of fear and trust. "Don't leave the boat, my loves," she whispered, kissing each of their foreheads. The smell of salt and mildew filled the air, but she felt a new courage. With a wad of old notes carefully hidden in a secret pocket sewn into her oldest skirt, Anna left the boat. The morning air was icy, and the wind whipped her hair. The wet sand beneath her feet yielded with each step. She walked along the deserted shore, avoiding the gaze of the few fishermen already preparing for sea. The dirt road leading to New Haven was long and uneven, flanked by dry bushes and a few twisted trees. The sun began to rise, painting the sky with shades of gold and purple, but Anna barely noticed the beauty. Her mind was focused on each step, on each heartbeat that seemed to echo both fear and hope. The walk seemed endless. Anna's body ached, but the image of Sophia coughing and Peter's smile propelled her forward. Finally, after hours, the first houses of New Haven appeared on the horizon. The town was larger than she imagined, with cobblestone streets and stone buildings. The hum of the market could already be heard, a growing murmur of voices, laughter, and the sound of passing carts. Anna blended into the crowd, feeling like a stranger, but also, for the first time in a long time, invisible. No one knew her there. No one called her the boat woman. She walked past the colourful stalls, her eyes fixed on a small general store in a more secluded corner, where people seemed less attentive. With her heart pounding in her chest, she entered. The smell of spices and ground coffee filled the air. An elderly man, with spectacles perched on the tip of his nose, attended to her. "Good morning, madam. How can I help you?" he asked, his voice gentle. Anna held out the notes, some of the less mouldy ones. "I need flour, sugar, some cough medicine, and perhaps a blanket." The man took the money, his wrinkled fingers examining the notes. A moment of tense silence hung in the air. Anna held her breath. He looked up at her, a small smile on his lips. "Old money, but still good. It's rare to see these notes nowadays. Your family must have kept them for a long time." A sigh of relief escaped Anna's lips, almost inaudible. "Yes, a family inheritance," she replied, the lie coming out more naturally than she expected. She bought what she needed, and even a small wooden toy for Sophia. The weight of the bags in her hands was different now, a weight of conquest, not of despair. The way back seemed shorter, driven by euphoria and the anxiety of reuniting with her children. When Anna spotted the boat on the shore, a warmth spread through her chest. Peter and Sophia were sitting at the makeshift entrance, exactly as she had left them, their eyes fixed on the road. Seeing her, a cry of joy escaped Sophia, and both ran to her. "Mama, you're back!" Peter exclaimed, hugging her legs. Anna hugged them tightly, the smell of her children mixed with the aroma of flour and hope. "I'm back, my loves, and look what Mama brought." That first step, risky and frightening, had been a success. The boat's secret, once a burden, was now a tangible promise. The boatwoman was beginning to build her own empire of hope, one old note at a time. The wind still blew, the sea still crashed, but inside that overturned boat a new life was indeed blossoming. Anna took a deep breath, the smell of fresh fish and sweat mingling in the vibrant market air. "The mullet. The mullet is 5 shillings a pound, sir," she replied, her voice a little firmer than she expected. She remembered old man Manuel's words, how much the intermediaries exploited the fishermen. That price, she calculated, was fair for the buyer and still left a margin for her and the old fisherman. The man frowned, examining the fish with an experienced eye. 5 shillings? A bit steep for what I see. I'll take it for 4. Anna's heart tightened. It was her first negotiation, and she was already under pressure, but she couldn't give in so easily. "Sir, this fish was caught this morning before dawn. It's just out of the sea. You won't find anything fresher in the entire market. It's a superior quality fish. 5 shillings is a fair price." The man hesitated, sensing the determination in the woman's eyes. He picked up a mullet, feeling its weight and firmness. The silvery scales gleamed under the sun. "All right," he said finally, pulling some coins from his pocket. "I'll take £1, but make sure it's a good weight." A warm relief flooded Anna. With trembling hands, she weighed the fish on a makeshift scale old man Manuel had lent her, carefully wrapping it in more banana leaves. The first sale, a small triumph, but a real triumph. The hours dragged on, the sun climbed higher, and the market's hum grew louder. Anna continued to call out, her voice gaining confidence with each. "Fresh fish," she uttered. Some buyers were kind, others rude. Some haggled vehemently, but Anna held firm on her prices, explaining the freshness and quality of her product. She watched the other vendors, learning from their gestures, from their words. She saw how they arranged their goods, how they interacted with customers. Slowly, the buckets and the box began to empty. The weight on Anna's shoulders lessened, but her physical exhaustion increased. Her mind, however, was in ecstasy. Every coin that dropped into her small cloth purse was proof that her plan was not madness. It was a palpable reality. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with orange hues, the last fish was sold. Anna gathered her things, her heart pounding with a mixture of exhaustion and euphoria. She counted the coins. The profit, though modest, was significant. It was more than she imagined earning in a single day, and most importantly, it was clean money, hard-earned, without the weight of the boat's mysterious treasure. The walk back to the shore was lighter despite her aching body. The afternoon wind blew gently, and the smell of salt and sea air was a balm. Anna felt her feet swollen, her muscles protesting, but a stubborn smile adorned her lips. She had done it. The woman the village mocked, the boat woman, had ventured into the town market and returned victorious. Spotting the overturned hull of the boat on the horizon, a warmth spread through her chest. It was more than a shelter. It was a starting point. Peter and Sophia were sitting on the sand near the makeshift entrance, watching the sea. Seeing her, Peter's eyes lit up. "Mama," he cried, running to hug her. Sophia, with her small wooden toy, came right behind. Anna hugged them tightly, smelling the sweet scent of their hair. "I did it, my loves," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "We did it." Inside the boat, under the flickering lamplight, Anna showed the coins to her children. Peter's eyes shone with fascination, and Sophia reached out her small hand to touch the cold metal. "Is this for food, Mama?" Peter asked, hope in his voice. "For food, for clothes, for everything we need," Anna replied, a lump in her throat. "And for a future, my son, for a better future." That night, as the sea murmured its lullaby, Anna took the rusty chest. Carefully, she added the newly earned coins to the wads of old money. Little by little, she thought, the treasure money could be mixed in, laundered, transformed into something without a past, without mystery. The success of that day was a crucial step. Not only did it prove she could support herself, but it also paved the way for her larger plan. In time, with more sails, she could save for a cart, for more efficient transport. She could expand her business, perhaps even buy a small boat for the fishermen, ensuring a constant supply of fresh fish. The boatwoman was transforming, not just into a vendor, but into an entrepreneur. The flame of determination burning in Anna was now fueled by hope and the proof of her own capability. The sea, once a symbol of her loneliness and uncertainty, now stretched out as a promise of opportunities. The journey would be long, but she was no longer alone. She had her children, her courage, and a plan that was beginning to materialize. The boat's treasure was not just a hidden fortune, it was the seed of a new beginning, and Anna was ready to cultivate it. The brightness of the next morning brought with it a new energy for Anna. Her body still ached, but her soul was light, fueled by the previous day's victory. The children woke with a smile, and the smell of weak coffee mingled with the salty aroma of the sea, entering through the boat's cracks. Anna prepared a simple breakfast, but with a heart overflowing with gratitude. After leaving Peter and Sophia playing near the boat, under the watchful eye of the closest neighbor, an elderly woman who, though keeping her distance, seemed to have a spark of compassion, Anna walked to the shore, looking for old man Manuel. He was mending a net, his calloused fingers moving with the dexterity of years of practice. "Good morning, old man Manuel," Anna said, her voice firm. The old fisherman looked up, an eyebrow arched. "Well, the saleswoman is back, so? Did you sell anything? Or did you come to ask me for more fish to throw away?" Anna smiled, taking the small cloth purse from her waist. The jingle of coins echoed in the air. "I sold everything, old man Manuel, and here is your share. with a little more than agreed for your risk and your trust." Old man Manuel's wrinkled face lit up with surprise. He took the coins, weighing them in his palm. The metallic sound was music to his ears. "Everything. You sold everything. No one has ever gotten such a good price in New Haven." "I worked hard, sir, and the fish was fresh, of quality," Anna replied, feeling genuine pride. The buyers saw that. Other fishermen who had previously ignored or mocked her now approached, curious. The murmur of their low conversations was audible. "So, are you willing to take more today?" Old man Manuel asked, a glimmer of admiration in his eyes. "I am. The more the better," Anna replied, her determination unwavering. "And if other fishermen want me to take their fish too, I'm at their disposal." A silence hung over the shore. The fishermen exchanged glances, the idea of a woman, and the boat woman at that. Selling their catch in the big town was radical, but the money in old man Manuel's hand was a powerful argument. A younger fisherman, with a sparse beard and suspicious eyes, stepped forward. "And what's your guarantee, miss? If you don't sell my fish, who pays?" "I pay," Anna said without faltering. "At first the risk is mine, but I guarantee I'll do my best to sell everything. And if I succeed, you get a fair price, without the exploitation of intermediaries." Old man Manuel cleared his throat. "She has her word, and she has courage. I took a risk and didn't regret it. I believe she can do a good job for all of us." With the old fisherman's endorsement, resistance began to yield. One by one, the fishermen approached, some with skepticism, others with cautious hope. They agreed to give Anna a small portion of their catch for the day, a test to see if she could truly keep her promise. In a short time, Anna had a larger load than the day before. 2 large baskets and 3 buckets brimming with fresh fish, wrapped in rough leaves. The weight was even more considerable, and the walk to New Haven promised to be exhausting. But Anna felt an inner strength that propelled her. Each step was an investment in her future and that of her children. The cobblestone streets of New Haven seemed familiar now. She found her spot in the market, a little more central this time, and arranged her goods with a touch of professionalism she hadn't possessed before. "Fresh fish, straight from the sea, the best in the region." Her voice resonated louder and more confident. Sales were quicker that day. Some customers from the previous day recognized her and returned, satisfied with the quality of the fish. Others, drawn by her energy and the freshness of the product, stopped to buy. Anna negotiated firmly, but with the kindness of someone who understands the value of good service. She was learning, observing, adapting. By late afternoon, exhausted but with a heavier coin purse, Anna began her journey back. The euphoria of the previous day had transformed into a serene satisfaction and a deep conviction. She was building something brick by brick, or rather, fish by fish. Back at the boat, Peter and Sophia greeted her with tight hugs. Their eyes shone at the sight of the coins, now in greater quantity. "Mama, are we going to have a cart soon?" Peter asked, hope in his childlike voice. Anna smiled, stroking her son's hair. "We will, my love. One step at a time, but we'll get there." That night, as the sea murmured its lullaby, Anna added the newly earned coins to the chest. She set aside a small amount, mixing some of the old coins with the new ones. It was a start. She needed a cart, and soon. Time was precious, and the opportunity to expand the business was now. She knew she would need a push, and the treasure, with its mysterious origin, would be that push. But she would use it wisely, transforming it into something new, something clean, something she and her children could call their own, without shadows of the past. The boat woman was becoming the market woman, and her gaze already stretched beyond the horizon to the possibility of becoming the sea woman. The brightness of the next morning brought the promise of a new day, and Anna rose with renewed energy despite persistent fatigue. The smell of sea air and weak coffee filled the interior of the boat, and the soft murmur of waves against the makeshift hull was the soundtrack to her new routine. Peter and Sophia, already awake, watched her with curious eyes, the silent question about the cart hanging in the air. After a quick breakfast, Anna left the children under the watchful eye of the elderly neighbor, who now waved with a discreet smile. Each day, the community's distrust diminished, replaced by cautious respect. The boatwoman was proving her worth. On the shore, the fishermen were already waiting for her. The hum of conversation ceased when Anna approached, and the initial skeptical glances had given way to tacit recognition. Old man Manuel, with a toothless smile, was already separating his share of the catch. "Good morning, Anna," he said, his voice hoarse. "It seems you've become our best saleswoman." Anna smiled, feeling the warmth of recognition. "Good morning, old man Manuel. And gentlemen, do you have fish for me today?" A chorus of yes rose, and soon Anna stood before a mountain of fresh fish, much more than she could carry. 2 large baskets, 5 buckets, and even a wooden box full of shrimp. The weight was impossible. "I can't carry all this on foot, gentlemen," Anna said, her voice a little frustrated. "I need a cart." The fishermen exchanged glances. "A cart? That costs money, miss," one of them commented. "And it's not easy to find around here." Anna nodded, her mind already working. "I know, but I need one, and today I'll try to carry as much as I can. The rest, we'll have to wait." The image of fresh fish spoiling in the sun hurt her. It was a lost opportunity, money that wouldn't come in. That day, she made a superhuman effort to carry what she could, her muscles burning with every step to New Haven. Sales were excellent, but the frustration of not being able to carry more was palpable. At the end of the day, exhausted, Anna counted the money. It was a good profit, but far from enough for a cart. The decision formed in her mind, firm and unpostponable. She would need the chest. That night, under the faint lamplight, Anna opened the rusty chest. The jewels gleamed with a mysterious glow, and the wads of mouldy money seemed to call to her. With a sigh, she took one of the wads, separating a few notes. It wasn't ideal, she thought, but it was a necessary investment. The treasure shouldn't just be a reserve, but a lever for her future. She mixed the old notes with the newly earned coins, feeling a chill in her stomach, but also an iron determination. The next morning, Anna didn't go to the market. Instead, after leaving the children, she headed to the older part of New Haven, where blacksmiths and carpenters were known to be found. She asked around, negotiated, and finally found an old carpenter who had a used but sturdy cart for sale. The wheels were solid wood, and the frame, though a bit worn, seemed strong. "It's a good cart, miss," the carpenter said, observing her with shrewd eyes. "It can take a beating, but it's not cheap." Anna negotiated firmly, using the notes from the chest and the money from her sales. The carpenter, surprised by the amount and the determination of this woman, eventually conceded. The jingle of coins and the rustle of notes sealed the deal. With her heart pounding, Anna held the reins of the cart. It was heavy, but the feeling of ownership was intoxicating. The creak of the wheels on the cobblestone street was music to her ears. The walk back to the shore, pulling the empty cart, was long and tiring, but every step was a triumph. When Peter and Sophia saw her approaching, Peter's eyes widened. "Mama, the cart!" he cried, running towards her. Sophia jumped with joy, clapping her hands. The neighbor, sitting at her door, watched the scene with an open smile. Anna hugged her children, feeling tears of joy well up in her eyes. "Yes, my loves, it's our cart. Now we can carry all the fish we want." News of the cart spread like wildfire among the fishermen. The next morning, Anna didn't need to go to them. They were waiting for her on the shore, with their fish already bagged and ready to be loaded. The cart, now filled to the brim, transformed Anna's logistics. The trip to New Haven was faster, more efficient, and she could carry a much larger quantity of goods. At the market, the cart became an attraction. Customers gathered, curious, and the abundant supply of fresh fish further boosted sales. Anna, now with an air of someone commanding her own business, negotiated with a confidence she hadn't possessed before. The day was a resounding success. Returning to the boat, Anna's body was exhausted, but her spirit was in ecstasy. The chest that night received a substantial amount of coins and notes. The treasure money was being used, yes, but it was being multiplied, transformed into something tangible, something she and her children could see and touch. The boat woman had become the market woman, and now, with her cart, she was a force to be reckoned with. The sea was no longer just a distant promise. It was a route, a path she was paving, fish by fish, coin by coin, towards a future she was building with her own hands. The next step, she knew, would be her own boat, and for that she would continue to work, tireless, with the chest as her silent partner and the love of her children as her fuel. The promise of her own boat echoed in Anna's mind with each sunrise, a beacon guiding her days. The rhythm of her life had transformed into an orchestrated dance between the sea and the market. The rumble of the cart's wheels in New Haven became a familiar sound, announcing her arrival with an increasingly impressive load of fresh fish. Her voice, once hesitant, now resonated with the authority of someone who mastered her trade, and customers sought her out, drawn not only by the quality of her products, but by the vibrant energy she exuded. The fishermen, once skeptical, now received her with almost reverential respect. Old man Manuel, with the wisdom of years, watched her with a glint of pride in his eyes. "Anna, you were born for this," he said one day, as she loaded the cart with surprising agility. "No one sells fish like you." The old fisherman's words were a balm to her soul, a confirmation that she was on the right path. Each day, more fishermen entrusted her with their catch, seeing in her not just a vendor, but a partner who valued their work. Peter and Sophia, with curious eyes full of admiration, accompanied their mother on her trips to and from the shore, helping to arrange the damp leaves that wrapped the fish and ensuring nothing fell from the cart. The cart, once a novelty, was now an integral part of their lives, a tangible symbol of their progress. Coins accumulated in the chest, and Anna felt the growing weight of responsibility, but also the lightness of hope. She still used a small portion of the old notes to supplement larger expenses, but most of the profit came from her own effort, a testament to her resilience. In her few hours off, Anna didn't rest. Instead, she headed to the small shipyards and makeshift docks of New Haven, where the smell of wood, tar, and salt mingled in the air. She watched the boats, large and small, the fishermen mending nets, the carpenters hammering with a rhythmic sound. She listened to conversations, absorbing every detail about engines, sails, hulls, and prices. Her goal was clear: to find a boat she could call her own. Many boats were beyond her reach, sturdy vessels that would cost a fortune. Others were too old, their wood rotten, their masts broken. But Anna had a vision, an intuition forged in the experience of transforming an overturned hull into a home. She sought potential, not perfection. It was on a windy afternoon, as the sea crashed hard against the pier, that she saw it. Anchored in an isolated corner of the harbor, a medium-sized fishing boat with peeling paint and a somewhat neglected appearance, but with a structure that seemed solid. The name Sea Star was almost faded on the bow. The mast was intact, though the sails looked torn. A silence hung over it, as if it were waiting for something. Anna felt a shiver. That boat somehow called to her. She approached, observing the details, touching the rough wood of the hull. An elderly man, with calloused hands and a sun-weathered face, watched her from afar. "Beautiful boat," Anna commented, her voice firm, even though her heart was racing. The old fisherman nodded, his voice hoarse. "It was my father's, but I'm too old for the sea now, and my children don't want anything to do with fishing." He sighed, a sad sound that mingled with the wind's lament. "It's for sale." Anna felt a wave of excitement and nervousness. "How much?" The man looked at her with shrewd eyes. "It's a good boat, needs some repairs, of course, but the engine still runs. I'm asking a fair price." She knew this was the moment. The amount he asked was significant, much more than she had accumulated from sales. But the gleam of the jewels and the volume of the wads of money in the chest floated in her mind. She would not hesitate. "I'd like to see inside," Anna said, her voice brimming with determination. "And if we can reach an agreement, I'll buy it." The old fisherman, surprised by the audacity and seriousness of this woman, smiled, a toothless but warm smile. "Come early tomorrow, miss. I'll show you everything." That night, the murmur of the sea against the hull of the boat home seemed like a victory song. Anna, exhausted but invigorated, looked at Peter and Sophia, who were sleeping deeply. The Sea Star was more than a boat. It was the next chapter, the materialization of a dream she was building, step by step, with the strength of her spirit and the silent help of a hidden treasure. The sea called to her, and she was ready to answer. Morning arrived with a dense fog hanging over the shore, but Anna's determination was a sun to dissipate it. She left Peter and Sophia with the neighbor, promising she would return with exciting news. The salty smell of the sea pulled her, and each step towards the harbor was laden with expectation. The old fisherman, whose name she discovered was Joseph, was already waiting for her beside the Sea Star. His eyes, once shrewd, now gleamed with a mixture of curiosity and a hint of hope. "Good morning, miss," he greeted, his voice hoarse from time and salt. "Ready to see your new home?" Anna smiled, a smile that went beyond her lips, reaching her eyes. "Ready to see my new future, old man Joseph." He led her aboard with a gesture. The deck creaked under her feet, and the smell of mildew and sea air was strong. The peeling paint revealed layers of stories, but the structure seemed solid, as Anna had intuited. Joseph pointed to the engine, covered by a dirty tarp. "It runs. Needs an overhaul, of course, but it always took me out and brought me back." He showed the small cabin compartment, cramped and dark, with a bunk and a rusty stove. The sails, folded and tied to the mast, were torn in places, but the mast itself was sturdy. Anna touched the wood, feeling its rough texture and the promise of hard work. She imagined the boat clean, the sails new, the engine rumbling. The vision was so clear in her mind it seemed real. "It's perfect," she said, more to herself than to Joseph. "The price, miss," Joseph began, clearing his throat. "I'm asking £800. The amount made Anna's stomach churn. It was much more than she had accumulated from her sales, even with the cart, but the chest, the treasure. She knew this was the moment to use it, to transform it into something greater. "It's a fair price, old man Joseph," Anna replied, her voice firm, "but I have a proposal." She explained that she would pay part in newly earned coins and notes and part with old notes from a family treasure. Joseph listened attentively, his eyes narrowed. When she pulled a wad of moldy notes from her pocket, mixed with the more recent bills, the surprise on his face was evident. "These notes," he murmured, picking one up and examining it. "They're very old, but they're still valid." He looked at Anna with renewed respect. "I see you're a woman of your word, and of resources." Anna nodded. "I'm a woman who knows what she wants, old man Joseph, and I want this boat." The negotiation was brief, but intense. Anna didn't give in easily, but she also didn't exploit the old man's need. She offered £750, an amount that would still leave her with a considerable reserve in the chest, but which represented a colossal investment. Joseph pondered, looking at the boat with a melancholy that mingled with satisfaction. He knew he was handing over a piece of his history, but he also knew Anna would make it live again. "Done," he said, extending his calloused hand. The handshake sealed the deal. Anna felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of relief, triumph, and a dizzying sense of responsibility. She handed over the money, the old notes mixed with the new, feeling the weight of the transaction. Joseph counted the notes slowly, his eyes misty. "He was a good friend, this boat," he said, his voice choked. "Take good care of him, miss." "I will," Anna promised, her own eyes shining. "He will have a new life with me." Joseph explained the engine's details, the boat's peculiarities, where to find parts, and who could help with repairs. He seemed relieved to pass the torch to someone who saw the potential in the Sea Star. Anna spent the rest of the morning aboard, exploring every corner, feeling the boat under her feet. She sat in the small cabin, imagining herself sailing, the sun on her skin, the smell of the sea. It was a dream coming true, but one that would require even more work, more sacrifice. The boat needed a deep cleaning, the engine a complete overhaul, the sails repairs or replacement. There was much to do. When she returned to the shore, Peter and Sophia ran to meet her. "Mama, what happened?" Peter asked, his eyes wide. Anna knelt, hugging them tightly. "My loves, we have a boat. The Sea Star is ours." The children's cries of joy echoed along the shore, attracting the attention of some fishermen and neighbors. Old man Manuel approached, a wide smile on his face. "I knew you'd do it, Anna. Congratulations." News spread like wildfire. The boatwoman now had her own boat. Some still scoffed, doubting her ability to make the Sea Star sail again, but most watched with silent admiration. Anna, however, didn't care about the skeptics. She had a boat to fix, a future to build, and an entire sea to conquer. That night, the hull of the Sea Star swayed gently on the water, a new member of the Shaw family. Anna, exhausted but with renewed energy, knew the journey was just beginning. The chest, now lighter, had served its purpose. It had transformed a dream into reality. The next step was to transform that reality into prosperity. She looked at the dark sea, feeling the breeze on her face. The Sea Star awaited her, and she was ready to sail it. The first ray of sun the next morning painted the sky in orange hues, and Anna was already on her feet, her heart vibrating with an energy she hadn't felt in a long time. She left the children sleeping and hurried to the harbor. The Sea Star waited, swaying gently in the low tide. The smell of sea air and mildew was strong, but for Anna, it was the perfume of promise. She climbed aboard, feeling the deck creak under her feet. She started with an exhaustive cleaning. Buckets of seawater, hard brushes, and coconut soap were her weapons. The dust and dirt accumulated from years of abandonment began to yield, revealing the dark, solid wood underneath. The interior of the cabin, once a labyrinth of cobwebs and junk, slowly transformed into a functional space. Peter and Sophia, returning from the neighbor's house, ran to the boat, their eyes wide. "Mama, is it really ours?" Sophia asked, touching the hull with reverence. Anna smiled, handing them small buckets and cloths. "Yes, my loves, and now it's time to make it shine." The children, full of enthusiasm, helped scrub and carry water, transforming the hard work into a fun adventure. Their laughter echoed through the harbor, mingling with the distant hammering and the cries of seagulls. Old man Joseph watched from afar, a satisfied smile on his face. Every now and then he would approach, offering practical advice on the best way to clean the hull or what type of varnish to use. "The wood is good, miss," he said one day, examining the bow. "But those sails, they need a good patch, or better yet, new ones." Anna nodded. The torn sails were a challenge. She didn't have money for new sails and didn't know how to sew one of that size. The biggest concern, however, was the engine. Joseph had guaranteed it worked, but it needed an overhaul. Anna, with the old fisherman's help, managed to remove the tarp and examine the machine. It was an old diesel engine, robust, but covered in rust and grease. Joseph explained the components, the filters, the oil. Anna listened attentively, absorbing every word, drawing mental diagrams. She knew she couldn't do the repair alone. She sought out Old Man Miller, the village mechanic, a quiet man with grease-stained hands and an encyclopedic knowledge of marine engines. "The Sea Star?" Old Man Miller grumbled, wiping his hands on a rag. "It's a good engine, but it's been idle for a long time. It'll be a lot of work." He gave her an estimate, an amount that made Anna swallow hard. It was substantial, but she knew the engine was the heart of the boat. She would use more of the old coins and notes, an investment that would be worth it. While Old Man Miller worked on the engine, producing metallic clangs and the strong smell of oil and fuel, Anna dedicated herself to the rest. She sanded the deck, applied new varnish, mended the ropes, and with Joseph's help, began to learn the art of mending the sails. Her fingers, once accustomed to sewing clothes, now adapted to the thick canvas and heavy needles. With each stitch, she felt the boat reborn. The community watched. Some still shook their heads, disbelieving. "A woman at sea? That won't work," a fisherman muttered. But others, especially the older ones, saw in Anna the same grit that propelled their own ancestors. Old Man Miller, after days of work, finally called Anna. "It's ready, miss, but it's good to take it for a test run before heading out to open sea." The test day arrived. The Sea Star's engine coughed, sputtered, and with a deep rumble came to life. Black smoke billowed from the exhaust, and the boat vibrated. Anna, at the helm, felt an overwhelming emotion. Peter and Sophia, sitting on the bow, shouted with joy as the boat slowly pulled away from the pier. The Sea Star was sailing again, and with it, Anna was sailing towards a future she herself was building, stitch by stitch, bolt by bolt, with the strength of her will and the wisdom of a hidden treasure. The sea, once a threat, was now an invitation. The Sea Star's engine rumbled more steadily, and Anna felt the vibrations spread through the deck, a living pulse beneath her feet. The smell of freshly burned diesel mingled with the sea salt, and the dark smoke from the exhaust was a sign of life. Peter and Sophia, clinging to the bow, let out squeals of delight as the boat slowly pulled away from the pier, leaving behind the curious glances and murmurs of the community. Old Man Joseph was aboard, beside Anna, his experienced eyes assessing the sea. "Slowly, miss. Feel the boat," he advised, his voice calm over the engine's roar and the gentle lapping of waves against the hull. Anna held the helm firmly, feeling the water's resistance. It was different from guiding the cart, which responded to her commands with predictable obedience. The boat had a will of its own, a dance with the currents and the wind. She maneuvered the Sea Star out of the harbor, its bow cutting through the greenish water. The morning sun kissed Anna's face, and the salty breeze ruffled her hair. The feeling of freedom was intoxicating. Peter and Sophia pointed at the gulls soaring above them, and their laughter was music to Anna's ears. Joseph explained how to read the small ripples on the water's surface, how to feel the wind's strength, and how to adjust the helm to maintain course. He taught her to tie basic knots, to drop anchor, and to hoist the sails. The mended sails, though not new, billowed with the wind, pushing the boat with surprising force. The engine silenced, and only the sound of the wind in the sails and the murmur of the water accompanied the journey. Anna felt the wind's strength in her hands as she pulled the ropes, adjusting the sails. It was hard work, but every movement was rewarded by the boat's response. She was no longer the humiliated and outcast woman, but a captain navigating her own destiny. After hours of practice, with the sun already high in the sky, Joseph suggested, "Let's cast the nets, Anna, just to see how it is." Anna's heart quickened. It was her first time trying to fish. She had watched the fishermen on the shore for years, but never imagined she would one day be doing the same. With Joseph's help, she unrolled the net, feeling its wet weight and rough texture in her hands. With a movement that seemed clumsy to her, but efficient to Joseph, they cast the net into the sea. The sound of the net hitting the water was soft, almost a whisper. The weight was tense, but full of expectation. Peter and Sophia were quiet, their eyes fixed on the water's surface. 20 minutes later, Joseph indicated it was time to retrieve it. Anna pulled the net, feeling the resistance. It was heavier than she expected. Her muscles ached, but she didn't give up. Inch by inch, the net emerged, dripping water. It wasn't an abundant catch, but there they were, a few silvery fish, small but vibrant, and a struggling crab. Peter and Sophia's eyes shone. "Mama, you caught fish!" Sophia exclaimed, jumping with joy. Anna smiled, exhausted, but with a pride that swelled in her chest. It was a beginning, proof that it was possible. Back at the harbour, news of Anna's first catch spread quickly. Some still shook their heads, but most watched with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Old man Miller, the mechanic, waved from afar, a rare smile on his face. The other fishermen, who had once viewed her with disdain, now greeted her with a nod. That night, the smell of fried fish filled the small home in the overturned boat's hull. Anna and the children ate the simple but delicious meal, a feast of hope. The Sea Star swayed gently outside, anchored, its engine silent now, but its heart pulsing with the promise of a future. Anna knew the journey was just beginning. There was much to learn, many seas to navigate, and many challenges to face. But with the Sea Star beneath her feet, and the treasure, now more a symbol of her courage than of wealth, she felt ready for any storm that came. The sea, once an invitation, was now her home. The promise of a new day pulsed like blood in Anna's veins. Each dawn brought with it the promise of a new day, and the salty scent that entered through the cracks of her boat home was no longer a reminder of her misfortune, but the perfume of her freedom. The small test catch had been merely the prelude to a symphony of hard work and hard-won rewards. In the days that followed, Anna plunged headfirst into the life of a fisherwoman. Her alarm clock was the crowing of the first roosters and the distant cry of seagulls. She rose before the sun, her body still heavy with sleep, but her mind sharpened by determination. Peter and Sophia, wrapped in blankets, still slept deeply in the hull of the overturned boat as she headed to the Sea Star. The engine, now familiar, coughed and sputtered before settling into a steady rumble that echoed through the silent harbour. She maneuvered the boat out of the pier with increasing dexterity, the bow cutting through the dark water like a sharp knife. The pre-dawn cold bit at her skin, but with every wave the Sea Star conquered, Anna felt a warmth spread within her. Old man Joseph continued to be her shadow and her guide. He taught her to read the clouds, to predict wind changes by the smell of the sea air, to identify the best fishing spots by the color of the water and the movement of birds. "The sea speaks, Anna," he would say, his wrinkled eyes fixed on the horizon. "You just need to learn to listen." And Anna listened. She heard the creak of the wood beneath her feet, the whistle of the wind in the ropes, the lapping of waves against the hull. Not every day was bountiful. There were mornings when the nets came back almost empty, and frustration threatened to erode her newfound confidence. But Anna refused to give up. She adjusted the sails, changed fishing spots, experimented with different depths. She learned to mend small tears in the nets and clean the engine with a skill that surprised even old man Miller, the mechanic, who now greeted her with an open smile. The community, which had once watched her with disdain, began to change its perception. Murmurs turned into respectful conversations. "That woman has grit," a fisherman commented one day, as Anna unloaded a good quantity of fish on the pier. Another nodded. She doesn't give up. She's one of us now. Peter and Sophia eagerly awaited her return, running to the pier as soon as they saw the Sea Star approaching. Their eyes shone with joy when Anna showed them the day's catch. They helped clean the fish, separate the shrimp, transforming the work into a noisy, fun game. Their laughter filled the air, a sound Anna never thought she would hear again. In time, Anna's catches became more consistent. Money, once a constant worry, began to flow. She was able to buy new nets, a radio for the boat, and most importantly, abundant food and warm clothes for her children. The small home in the overturned boat's hull, once a refuge of despair, was now a cozy home, warmed not only by the stove, but by the love and security she had built. One day, while sailing back to the harbor, Anna spotted a dark patch on the horizon, a cluster of boats she had never seen before in that area. Curious, she approached, and old man Joseph, who was with her, explained, "It's tuna season, Anna. They're fishing further out where the sea is deeper." Tuna was a valuable fish, which could yield much more than her usual catches. Anna's heart beat faster. It was a risk, an adventure in unknown waters, but the promise of a greater reward was tempting. She looked at the open sea, at the Sea Star beneath her feet, and felt a new wave of courage. She was ready to go beyond. The decision to venture into open sea to fish for tuna was not taken lightly. Anna spent the night awake, the sound of the sea outside seeming to whisper both promises and warnings. She talked with old man Joseph the next morning, and he, with his quiet wisdom, merely nodded. "It's a different sea, Anna. Wilder, vaster. But the Sea Star is a good boat, and you are a good captain." His words, laden with confidence, were the final push Anna needed. She spent the following days preparing the Sea Star. She reinforced the moorings, checked the engine with old man Miller, who gave her a thumbs up with a smile. She bought more fuel, provisions for several days, and stronger nets designed for larger fish. Peter and Sophia, sensing the change in the air, helped carry the supply boxes, their eyes wide with the impending adventure. "Are we going to catch a giant fish, Mama?" Peter asked, his voice full of excitement. "We'll try, my love," Anna replied, a confident smile on her lips. The day of departure arrived with a clear sky and a gentle wind. It was pre-dawn, and the stars still twinkled in the dark sky when Anna started the Sea Star's engine. The deep rumble filled the silence of the harbor. Different from other days, old man Joseph was already aboard, his face serious, but his eyes gleamed with silent expectation. The other fishermen, who were already preparing for their own daily outings, watched in silence as the Sea Star pulled away from the pier, its bow pointing towards the vast horizon. There were no more jeers, only a mute respect. The journey to the open sea was long and challenging. The Sea Star cut through the larger waves with a steady sway, and the horizon stretched infinitely in all directions. The sun rose, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, and Anna felt the immensity of the ocean beneath her feet. She sailed for hours, following Joseph's instructions, who pointed out the currents and the areas where tuna usually fed. When they finally reached the spot Joseph indicated, Anna saw other boats, larger and better equipped, already casting their nets. The sea was rough, and the waves crashed hard against the Sea Star's hull, kicking up salty spray that drenched the deck. "Now's the time, Anna," Joseph said, his voice almost swallowed by the wind. Casting the nets for tuna was exhausting work. The nets were heavy, and the force of the waves made every movement a challenge. Anna's muscles burned, but she pulled and pushed with fierce determination. She and Joseph worked in sync, throwing the long nets into the deep sea. The weight was more tense than ever. Time seemed to drag, and Anna felt her heart pounding in her chest. Then, the net began to pull. It wasn't just a tug, but a powerful force that threatened to rip the net from her hands. "It's them, Anna! It's a good school!" Joseph cried, excitement in his voice. Anna pulled with all her might, sweat streaming down her face. The net's rope burned in her hands, but she didn't give in. Slowly, the net emerged, and with it, the silvery blue gleam of several large, strong tuna thrashing. The sound of water dripping from the net and the fish flapping on the deck echoed through the boat. Peter and Sophia, who had been kept safely in the cabin, rushed out, their eyes wide with astonishment and joy. "Mama, look!" Sophia cried, pointing at the fish. The journey home was triumphant. The Sea Star sailed heavier, laden with the valuable catch. As she approached the harbor, Anna saw a crowd on the pier. It wasn't just the fishermen and their families, but almost the entire community. When the Sea Star docked, a respectful silence hung in the air, soon broken by spontaneous applause. Old Man Manuel and other fishermen came to help unload, their faces displaying smiles of admiration. Anna's tuna was the biggest catch of the day, and the value she received for it exceeded all her expectations. That night, the small home in the overturned boat's hull was more brightly lit than ever, not just with the lamplight, but with the light of hope and accomplishment. Anna watched her children sleeping deeply, their faces serene. She had fulfilled her promise. The treasure in the chest, once a salvation, was now just a memory of the turning point. True wealth, she realized, was not in the jewels or the moldy money, but in the courage she found within herself, in the strength of her love for her children, and in the ability to transform a symbol of misfortune into a beacon of hope. The Sea Star, her home and her livelihood, swayed gently on the water under the watchful gaze of the moon. Anna knew that life would still bring challenges, but she was no longer a woman at the mercy of fate. She was the captain of her own life, navigating a sea that was now hers, with the wind of freedom in her sails and her heart full of gratitude and lasting peace. The future was vast and open, like the ocean she had conquered.